Hi folks, only me again. I know, not another video, but I have to do this update because I think it's really important, and I want to explain the consequences of standing by and watching or allowing the police to abuse or attack or ultimately completely overstep their mark when they're dealing with a suspect or a member of the public, for that matter. I posted a video 2 days ago, which is this one, whereby a 17-year-old boy in Romford was stopped. Police believed that he was in possession of controlled substances. Him and his friends, they were stopped, they were searched, ultimately found to be in possession of a Class B drug, and was subsequently arrested and then assaulted in what seems like an unprovoked attack. Now, since I made that video, I've found some more information online which I want to share with you, just in case you haven't seen it already. The first one is on the Metropolitan Police website. You can find that at news.met.police.uk. I'll put a link to that in the description below. It says, referral made to IOPC following recent arrest in Romford. Now, the Metropolitan Police Service has made a referral to the Independent Office for Police Conduct. Following a recent arrest made in Romford, police were on patrol in Heath Park Road, Romford, around 1500 hours on Monday, the 22nd of April, when they found reason to stop and search 2 teenagers under the Misuse of Drugs Act. A 17-year-old male was searched and was found in possession of Class B drugs and was subsequently arrested. He was later released under investigation. We are aware of footage circulating on social media. A full review into the circumstances surrounding the incident was carried out by the East Area Command Unit Professional Standards team in liaison with the Met's Directorate of Professional Standards. A public complaint was received, then referred to the IOPC, who have now launched an independent investigation. The Metropolitan Police Service continues to work with our communities and will listen and act with regards to community concerns. We remain committed to keeping Londoners safe. But the reason that's important to note is that a public complaint was received. So as I said in the video the other day about what we can do as a channel and how we can help each other by making complaints when we see something that is wrong, that we know is wrong, that can help. That can hold these police officers to account, and that's what we need to start doing. Police officers seem to feel that they're shielded behind their uniform, and they're not. They're bound by the same laws, acts and statutes as we are, and they seem to forget that. So we really need to ensure that they remember that to prevent things like this happening. So where I said we can make complaints as public, and somebody else had pointed out that, doing what I had planned, for example, by putting the police force complaints email in the description and asking people to make complaints, could be construed as a vexation, which would then get the complaint dismissed. But if that is the case, sorry about the noise upstairs. It's a weekend and they've got their kids round, so I do apologise. So being able to make complaints as the public should be allowed. It shouldn't be seen as being vexatious, but I can understand that if they get thousands, I suppose I can understand that could be seen as an abuse of the process. So I've had another idea, which I'll go through at the end of this video, and I'll explain that in one of these other articles I'm just about to show you. So another article that I found for the same incident was this one. A police officer is being investigated after footage shared online appeared to show an unarmed teenager being hit with a baton. In the clip, it shows an arrest in Romford, East London. The boy is struck on the leg several times, and Met Police said 17-year-old was arrested in the area on suspicion of drugs offences. The IOPC said it had received a complaint. A member of the public who witnessed the arrest contacted the watchdog to complain the use of the baton was excessive, it said. And I hope it was the lady that said in the original footage that I shared the other day, who said you can't do that. I hope it was her, because we really do need more people like that who are going to stand up and not allow this kind of thing to happen. Police said they had stopped and searched 2 teenage boys in Heath Park Road on Easter Monday. A 17-year-old was found in possession of Class B drugs and arrested on suspicion of possession with intent to supply and obstruction of a drug search. The second boy, aged 14, made off to his home address but was later detained there, the force said. During a struggle, an officer was assaulted and the boy was arrested on suspicion of obstruction and assault on a police officer. it added. So if he was arrested for assault on a police officer, why is the police officer not been arrested for an assault on a member of the public, on a minor? You know, it's just absolutely ridiculous. And it goes on. Both teenagers were later released under investigation. In a statement released through BAME Lawyers for Justice Group, the boy's mother said she was appalled by the violent arrest and that the family had been traumatised by it. IOPC Interim Regional Director Sal Nassim said the video only captures part of the arrest and the watchdog would seek to establish what happened during the entirety of the incident. And this is what I always say, we can only base our decisions on what we see. I always say that people should film their interaction as soon as an officer approaches them. The more of the incident you get in to your recording, the more evidence you have to prove that you was mistreated. And it doesn't matter what the incident is. If a police officer approaches you, record the incident. They do it to us, we can do it to them. The footage that they get or the notes that they write down, that is used against us. So we should be doing the same thing to protect ourselves. It goes on. Lee Jasper, former Deputy Mayor of London, called the incident a wanton act of apparent police brutality and said he intended to make a formal complaint, which I believe he has. In a statement, Scotland Yard said it was aware of footage circulating on social media and had launched a full review of the arrest. The force said it continued to work with our communities and will listen and act with regards to community concerns. We remain committed to keeping Londoners safe. The Met confirmed the officer had been put on restrictive duties. Now, this next article in Romford Recorder states that footage showing a plainclothes police officer striking a teenager multiple times during a stop and search in Heath Park Road on Monday, April 22nd, went viral on social media this week. The video begins partway through the incident, showing the boy in handcuffs and presenting no obvious threat to the officer. And that's my main point about this. Running this channel, I can only base my conclusions on what we see. So again, it goes back to being able to record, if you can, any incident that occurs, whether it's you being approached by the police and you try and get as much of that incident in as possible recorded, or something that I'm hoping to be able to start in the future, a group of people who will take it upon themselves, if they can, when they see somebody being harassed or being spoken to by the police, to take it upon themselves to try and protect that person. We're all human beings. We all have to live here. We're all bound by the same laws and rights, and we all have certain obligations to one another, although a lot of people forget that. And I think it's our obligation to help another human being who is in distress. Just my opinion. Some people will disagree with me on that, and that's absolutely fine. So let's carry on. The teenager can be heard yelling out, "I'm a child and this is illegal," as he is struck with the baton. A Metropolitan Police spokesman initially confirmed on Saturday morning that the officer has been placed on restricted duties, but later clarified that he has not been subject to any formal disciplinary, we'll get there in the end, sanctions at this time. He said, at this time, a decision has been taken locally to manage his duties. This includes restrictions to have no contact with the public. He added, the matter sits with the Directorate of Professional Standards and Independent Office for Police Conduct for a severity assessment. The Met announced its decision to refer the matter to the IOPC for investigation in a statement released on Friday. A Met spokesman had previously said that police officers had been on patrol in Heath Park Road when they found reason to stop and search two teenagers under the Misuse of Drugs Act. I mean, what was that reason? They were teenagers. The police said after a struggle, a 17-year-old boy was detained by an officer and reportedly found in possession of Class B drugs. He was arrested on suspicion of possession with intent to supply and obstruction of a drug search. A second teenager, aged 14, was also arrested on suspicion of obstruction and assault of a police officer. He was also released under investigation. Before the independent investigation was announced, the IOPC tweeted, "We've seen the video footage of an incident in Romford circulating on social media and understand why there is considerable public concern. The footage captures part of the incident but does raise questions about the officer's use of force. The investigation into the officer's conduct and formal restrictions of his duties comes after an online petition calling for his suspension has gained more than 44,000 signatures." Now, let's just go back to what I said the other day about what I'd like to do, where we try and help each other and make complaints. I'm thinking if the complaints route might be seen as being vexatious and cause problems, which it may well do, and I'm going to speak to a legal professional about that, then it may be better if we see an incident that I set up an online petition, I put a link in the description under the video on the channel, and anybody can then go and sign that petition if they feel that what has happened needs to be dealt with. And that's the route that I'm now thinking of taking, but I'm going to speak to a legal professional about my plan and see which method is going to be better for me and for the channel, because at the end of the day, I don't want to get people into trouble. I don't want to get police officers let off because of vexatious complaints. I want people to be dealt with properly. I want these people to be held to account. And if that means changing the method of doing that to a petition, then that's the route that we'll take. I'd love to hear your views on that, by the way, so please let me know in the comments whether you think the complaints route or the petition route would be better, bearing in mind the complaints route may be seen as being vexatious. So it also goes on to say, Lee Jasper, former Deputy Mayor of London, wrote on Facebook, and I've said this in the previous video as well, as a former Deputy Mayor of London responsible for policing, I wish to make a formal complaint to the Met Police Service and Mayor of London about this wanton act of apparent police brutality. I am aware that a complaint can be submitted through Twitter and wish to exercise my rights to do so now. You have no legitimacy in policing people like this, and soon from now I predict your officers will be routinely resisted in some areas as consequence of your utter failure to rein in officers such as this. So if the police force aren't able to rein these officers in, who else is left to do it? We, as the public, have to make a stand. We have to do what we can to protect one another. So going back to this incident, the police officer has been put on restricted duties. He's currently not allowed to have contact with the public whilst working. I think personally that restricted duties, I think it's clear to see that there is something seriously wrong with this incident, and to keep the officer on, to keep him working, when in any other profession, if you'd have done that, you'd have been sacked or you'd have been put on leave while it's being investigated. I think the fact that the police are keeping him on and doing restrictive duties is wrong. What kind of punishment is that? He gets to sit on his arse all day in an office and still get paid for it. He should be suspended while this is being looked into. If that had happened with somebody in the army or the navy or whatever, do you think they'd be put on restricted duties, or do you think they'd be put in a brig? Do you think they'd be taken away by the military police, put on leave, so to speak, while it's being investigated? Why are the police different? It's absolutely ridiculous. So what I'd like to do is, as I say, I'd like to ask you to, in the comments below, let me know what sort of, what direction you think we should go in with regards to, creating this community that can help one another. Should we look or consider the route of making complaints? Should we look at the route of doing a petition? It seems a petition could work for each case if we get enough signatures on it. It would require you guys to help by sharing that petition and asking people to sign it if they felt that the behaviour of that officer was wrong. We would need more people, because if we were making complaints we'd need less people. If we're doing a petition we need more signatures on that petition. So it would require not more work on your part, because it would be about the same. All you'd need to do is click the link, go on, or register on that petition, and then share it on social media, and that's all you'd need to do. Whereas a complaint would require you to download a form, fill it in on your computer, and then email it. So I'm kind of in two minds as what to do. But again, I'd like to ask your opinion on that, because I genuinely respect your opinions, and I want to do things that we can all agree on where possible, rather than just making a decision and saying this is what I want to do. Anyway, I'm glad that this police officer is being looked into and there is a review of this case, and more people need to make a stand. They need to make it known when they're not happy about something. It's about protecting each other. Okay, we all have to live in this world and we all need to back each other up. We all need to be there for one another and not separate ourselves from the rest of society. Just my opinion, as always. So I'm going to leave it there, guys. I thank you again, as always, for taking the time to come and check out my video, and no doubt all the subsequent comments and opinions that we're going to get in the comments below. So I thank you in advance for that, and I'll see you in my next video.